Just with this election, whether it's fair or not, or whether, whatever's going to happen, my personal opinion, people are concerned about vote splitting. What I'm thinking is, last election, I voted Conservative. I wasn't part of the party, but I liked the People's Party because I didn't want Justin Trudeau in. So I wanted to give my vote to a party that I thought had a better chance. I'll tell you the truth, honestly, as soon as I put my ballot in the box, my heart sunk, and I felt like I betrayed my hard-earned conscience, right? That's fine, that's late.
Hey, how are you?
How are you?
Good. Daniel, Don.
Good to meet you. What's going on right now is so important that I'm not going to play political games. I'm not going to play a vote-splitting game. I'm going to stand.
Somebody was looking for you.
That's why I'm going to vote for the People's Party of Canada.
Yeah, Lena. Yeah, did he find you? Okay.
And
I'll look for him again. I'll be back.
In life, in our history, that we could be facing dark times ahead. If you look at your student of history, you see
How's it going?
things happen. Russia, China.
Nice t-shirt, I like it.
Well, thanks. How are you? Good to see you. Nice to see you.
We showed up.
That's okay.
Some of the telltale signs are there.
Hey, how are you? Nice to see you again, too. Yeah.
Hi, how are you?
Thanks.
I feel like the most this time
Come here, give me a hug.
history
Yeah, good. Nice to see you, too.
really what's
Thanks for
right,
coming.
No matter what they do to us. If they put me in a COVID isolation camp, in a gulag, and if we're free, and we can do whatever we want.
Me first. Me first.
If you know something isn't true, if you know that what's going on is a lie, that this kind of COVID is being overblown or the full truth isn't, don't go along with it. Don't nod when somebody says, "Oh, this is really terrible," eh? And most of the time we just kind of be like, "Yeah," you nod, or you go along with it. You raise your hand. We're past the point of that. I think now is the time we need to take a stand and take a risk. And I think we need to do what's right, no matter if they take our jobs, they take everything away from us. I think we need to still stick by those principles. Yeah, that's cool. All right, so our candidate from which area? Northumberland, Nathan Lang, has joined us. Let's give him a round of applause. Thanks, sit up here, Nathan. Listen, like these questions, like this town hall format is awesome. I haven't seen one of these in like a long time. And just so you know, like the questions you're asking, if we give an answer, it's not even so much about the answer we're giving. I don't have all the answers, but the question is the thing, right? So let's go. Anybody else have any more questions? Because I bet people have the same thoughts that you have. Yeah, go ahead.
Why can't we do something like we're doing in the U.S., one state at a time? We're taking that and they're doing all the forensic audits, not just audits, forensic audits on the election. Why can't we just take one province at a time? The states are winning that way. After Donald Trump legitimately won, and Biden is a loser. Okay, he didn't win.
Agreed.
Okay.
It's just about how do you check election integrity, and like they're doing it one state at a time. We're not there yet. I mean, our last election, what it is. If that comes up now, I think that's something we should look at.
Yeah.
Right. But honestly, even though I'm running an election, to me, that's neither here nor there. I really think we need to stand for what we believe in, win or lose. That's what this is all about. They're trying to get us to think 2 + 2 = 5. Right? If you've ever read 1984. That's what they're trying to do to us. I think we need to stand and say, it's 4. It's 4. It's 4.
Yes. Agreed.
What I've been told is that Elections Canada itself doesn't actually use Dominion voting systems. That's my understanding. That's a misconception among a bunch of people. So I don't know about elections in Ontario or municipal elections, but I think you can be confident that Elections Canada isn't using Dominion systems, and I don't think we have it as nearly as bad as the US. I met the returning officer in my riding yesterday, and she seemed very honest, straightforward, and I think the team they have there is good. And I think we can count on.
How's it going? You made it, man. How's it going? You made it.
I show something.
Okay.
I think it's very important and
Yeah.
shocking. Okay, so I live with my nephew. Okay, he is 18 years old.
Anybody else
Not
have a question?
citizen.
This is Patricia
He's a
Conlin.
permanent
She's
resident.
the,
Look at this. Election card out. So they send him this one, so he can actually go there and register to vote. Not citizen.
Wow.
I think it's huge.
Wow, we should share that.
Oh, sure. I mean, I know that they cheating in US, right?
Yeah.
What happened to our country? Now they cheated. This
Oh.
is cheating.
Wow.
I
Okay,
wonder
well,
if anyone have the same thing that you have anything that. Yeah.
okay. Let me see if I can get you to say something up there. Yeah.
Right? We all know something's wrong. And, you know, we have to keep telling other people it's wrong. It's a matter of right and wrong. It's that simple. I try to explain to people, no, it's your opinion. No, it's wrong what's being done. And keep in your faith, keep in your courage, keep speaking the truth. People are starting to wake up more and more. The news is helping us. We're getting more and more people going, oh my God, I didn't realize. Yes? So, for those who don't know me, I'm Patricia Conlin. I'm running in Durham, and with these great guys. And the story, what I've been called to run, I have stood with, I've spent 10 years getting this black belt. It means nothing without, this is the fight of our life, guys. Come on, everyone.
Woo!
We need courage. Courage. You know, Martin Luther King told us, you know, we need a wall of courage right now to fight this flood of fear, right? Absolutely. Everybody has to take that little extra effort, talk to maybe 100 people in your community, however many you can, and open up the dialogue. Everything I've done in my life, I've fought for.
You find Elizabeth?
This is the greatest fight of my life. It's the most amazing opportunity, and we're all on the right side of history. All of us.
Yeah, no problem. Yeah.
Nice to meet you, Elizabeth. That's great. Thank you, John.
Yeah, no problem. Yeah, I just didn't know who it was.
We have enough time for the election.
Sorry? Oh, you want one of these? Sure. Yeah.
Thank you.
No problem. That's for the stuff. Yeah, so.
Appreciate it. Thanks.
Cool. Yeah. What's your name?
Trevor.
Trevor. I'm Don. I'm with Rise Up Durham. So if you need any information, we're on Facebook.
Yeah, I'm getting pressured at work to
Yeah.
get vaccinated, so
Yeah. Let me. I
trying
think
to
I
get as
have.
much information as I can.
Is our site as well? Yeah.
Okay, thank you
No
so
problem. Yeah. Thanks for coming. So,
much. Of course.
Going on the right side of history. You know, I don't know if you guys heard what we put out at PPC, and I'm so proud of this group. Maxine said August 26th, seems like a year ago, but maybe only a week. The leader of the People's Party, Maxine Bernier, unveiled the party's approach to COVID pandemic focused on protecting of the most vulnerable, guarantee Canadians to make decisions based on informed consent. Does anyone feel they've had informed consent?
He's not here.
No, none. And I could talk for an hour just on that. I'm a registered holistic nutritionist. And reject discrimination. He's going to cancel all of these policies that have had such negative repercussions on Canadians' physical and mental health. Why is it Canadians? We have children wanting to commit suicide. This is wrong. This shouldn't happen in our country. This is the policies of isolation, fear, and conflict. Who here in this group has had conflict within a friend group, a family, over the narrative? Put up a hand. Yeah, all of us. Have you lost friends? Yeah. You know what? And that's just the way it goes because we have to stay with the truth. I myself have lost friends, lost a lot of people, and I am still standing here, and I'm standing stronger than ever. And all of you will be stronger than ever. We all know in our hearts that's what the government has done. Whether you believe it was accidental or deliberate, we all know it was wrong and caused horrific harm. And what we can do with our vote is correct that. And a lot of people talk to me about vote splitting. That's just not a thing at all, because all the other parties stand for totalitarian communism. Show me your paper society. Who wants that? No! We say no to that. It's wrong. We're Canadians. We're free. We stand on guard for our country. This is not acceptable. That everybody needs to educate other people that the People's Party of Canada stands for our freedom. And whatever you need in terms of support, contact any one of us and we will help you. If we all talk to 10, 20, 50, 100 people, we can make a difference. I wanted to address, today we're talking about Know Your Rights. I know the Toronto Police, it's very small, my vision. Chief of Police put out a statement, very encouraging, rejecting the mandates. Is anyone aware of that?
Yeah.
We have to applaud. Yay! Fantastic. It takes that sort of leadership. Leadership isn't standing with a crowd that might be deluded or brainwashed or doing the wrong thing. Leadership is the guts to say, no, this is the wrong direction. I stand on the path to something better for us. And that's what we need, is real leaders willing to stand up, and this guy did that. The more people that do that, that we encourage and inspire to do that, the better. Anyone in terms of the questions or their tools, anything they need in terms of facing a potential situation at work. I mean, most of my career I've worked in employment. I've had a recruitment firm most of my life. And we've dealt with hiring and people who, and with the outplacement part of things as well. And I know for a fact that you must stand strong in terms of facing discrimination and with these, with the mandates. And that is and I'm not sure, have we covered that in terms of what you do about an employer? Did you cover that up? If there's anything else or anything you need that I can help with, I'd be happy to. Everyone can have access to my email address. I'm not sure what we covered in terms of your rights, but I know for a fact that if you step in your strength and you say no and you are laid off, the chances of you being rehired are massive. They can't do that. They can't do that to you. You have the right to say no to all of this.
Demand to be
How about suing them? How about
You
suing your
can
company?
sue them. There's lawyers that are thrilled to. That's a cost to you. That's one thing. You will get a severance depending on how long you've worked there, and it could be quite significant. And when you think, oh my God, I wanted to learn woodwork or crafts or canning for this time, you can take that opportunity to learn some skills, and you are going to be available next time. People are having a hard time finding labor. So I visited endless restaurants, and they just can't get cooks, they can't get servers because everybody's on serve.
Who wants to wear a mask all day?
Exactly. It's just the whole situation is so broken.
There's a taxi company in America that has said you must prove that you did not get vaccinated. We will hire you right on the spot. You prove
Yes,
that you're
like
vaccinated, we won't hire you.
Here's what's happening for us, for PPC candidates, and I've been strategic my whole life, so I've thought about this. Is they want to eliminate us from the debates, not just on the national scope with Maxime, but local candidates as well. So what I did in advance of that is I ordered an antibody test. I don't know how many of you know, but many of us have antibodies already to COVID.
That's right. That's right.
We're already set up, and I don't want to go on and say things that aren't factually specific percentage, but there's a lot. You can get an antibody test. I'm going to do an antibody test, and I'm enrolled in a study, and that currently is, they're actually saying in the mainstream media, is better protection, they're saying. So there's no way of kicking me out of a debate with Aaron O'Toole when I have better protection than him. So, bring on this debate. So I wanted to just hearten everybody tonight and just, you've heard a lot. It's overwhelming, I know. We've all lost stuff. We've lost friends. Maybe we've lost income. We have people stressed, maybe physical diseases manifesting. I've had several friends tell me they've been diagnosed with cancer. I mean, this is not a normal time. This is stress. So look after yourself and look after each other. And I think if we all have that faith and that courage is probably the most important muscle we can exercise right now. And if you feel I'm not that work on it incrementally, because every act of courage is going to help us win this battle faster.
Amen.
Faster. And I've said in earlier rallies, the definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over and expecting a different result. Now, as Einstein, and that's exactly what they're doing. And they're going to lock us down again, aren't they? No, we're not going to take it, right? Yes, that's right.
This insanity that's going on right now is driving me insane with
yes.
rage. With rage.
Good, yes. But we have to stay in unity. One of the tactics of war, military strategy, divide and conquer, divide from within. They're trying to divide us. They want the vaccinated and the unvaccinated, the masked and the unvaxxed, and all the colors and the races, everything. And we're all the same. We're all Canadians. So hold your tongue. That's the one thing. Let's stay respectful to each other. I know it's hard. We're ready to lose it a lot, all of us, the stress. But laugh it out, lighten the energy. I use a lot when I deal with some people who are just outrageously rude. And politely disengage, politely leave, move on. You cannot win everyone over, right, in this battle. But stay in peace whenever you can, guys. That's critical. That's what they want. They want us to get so flustered. And if you have someone who's funny in your life, I find that for me, humor is so good during these times. Even with my own sons, they're and the people in my community. Does anyone have a question that they wanted to ask that I could answer about anything, about, boosting your immune system? I'd love to give everyone a copy of my book. Anyone who wants to email me, I'll give away my ebook. Help you with your immune system. Yeah, I'd be thrilled to. This is my community right here. I love you all. Yes? You know what? There was, I think, Life Labs doing them way back, but they weren't accurate or effective. There's a gentleman, Dr. Stephen Pellich, in BC, a wonderful man, very talented, who has started a new antibody test, who's trying to counter all these measures. So that will be made, I think, available very soon. I think within days or weeks. So if you're interested in that, you can email me, and I'll connect you to that website. I know there are more and more coming online. I encourage everyone to get one. That's better than a passport. That's an immunity passport. We can say we trumped you. You got the.
But is the Trudeau government going to accept it?
Well, this is what I'm going to fight for as much as I can. That's why I'm getting mine done before any debates with Aaron O'Toole.
So, just
Yes.
a question. Are you aware that the debate has nothing to do with antibody tests or COVID? It actually has to do with your support and how much. It's a 4% polling support. And I actually researched this before. I pulled it up now just to guarantee I knew what I was talking about. But it has nothing to do with COVID. So please use the facts. Fight with the facts.
Exactly.
Okay?
Yeah.
It's the 4% support. And the commissioner who creates that is former Governor General David Johnston. He's the one that said it's the polls, and there's certain polls that have to be done a specific way in order to get that 4% threshold for the debate leaders to be on the debate. And formerly, Maxime Bernier was on the debate in the previous election because a lawyer spoke up and asked that he be on there. Go look it up. It's fact.
Wow.
So
So stop spreading stuff that's not factual.
So I'm not sure I understand where you're trying to help here.
What I'm trying to do is don't spread things and make it misinterpreted
No.
that it's COVID that
Okay.
is the reason why you're not up there.
No, I think you might not have heard recently a PPC candidate was taken off a debate because of his status. So it actually is happening.
That's fine, but
Yeah.
it's also because of the 4%. That's what they're using. Use the laws to back you up, okay?
Yeah.
Use the stuff that's out there.
You're talking about the leaders debate. He's in good hands. I'm just talking about the local debates here. That's where I can focus. Maxime's a great man and unbelievable what he's taken, and he's got a great team fighting that. And I think the polls, some of the accurate polls are much higher. So hopefully he'll be able
It's
to.
about 2 to 3%. Nick Nanos is one of the better polls in the country. Yeah.
I'm not sure if they're accurate personally, but
I am. I'm a researcher and a data analyst.
Okay.
And I'm certified, and I know which ones are the better
okay.
ones.
Well,
So-
let's just hope he can get on the national debate. I mean, that's out of my hands. But certainly, thank you so much, guys. And any other questions before I? Yes.
My question is, do people realize that polls are the popular vote?
Yeah.
Because
Yeah.
when you look at a poll, that's all you're seeing, is a popular vote. And
Yes.
that's not exactly how things pan out in elections. I was on Twitter today. I was getting at 10 in the morning, 890 tweets an hour on Vote PPC. At 3 o'clock, I was getting 4,000 an hour on Vote PPC.
Yes.
Okay? That's how many people are active on Twitter. That's how many people are coming out. I don't think we realize what's going on out there.
No, I agree.
And I think that we might be very surprised.
I think so too. I think so too. I really do. And you know, I've seen polls that have a second in Western Canada. They predicted a landslide for the Liberals and from the provincials, and look at the Conservatives took it. So, I think take everything with a grain of salt in terms of those stats, but we're definitely gaining momentum, and certainly PPC is here to stay. So we're here to stay. I don't know what the number is, but we're here to stay. So, and thank you so much, everybody.
Thank you. Okay, everybody. Thank you for coming out and meeting the candidates. The candidates will be around for further questions if you have any for them. They will be around. I know Thomas is on his way. He's coming from Toronto. That's where he works. So I'm sorry that you missed him right now, but if you've got questions for Thomas later on, he will be here probably in the next half hour or so. We also have Chris Weisdorf that's supposed to be arriving. He was supposed to be here at 6. He's not here yet, but when he arrives, I will take a break from speaking and he will talk to you guys. Chris Weisdorf is on the Adams BBQ legal team. So he's got some really great information, and he's been speaking one-on-one with a lot of fantastic researchers, scientists, and medical doctors. So we are going to go on to the information session, Know Your Rights. I'm assuming a lot of people are here specifically for that. So before I get on it, I'm going to read our legal disclaimer. I am not a lawyer, okay? I am just a person like all of you who has been diving very deeply into this subject. I am myself. I am a product of cancel culture. I've been speaking out for a long, long time. I'm a realtor in Northumberland. Due to my speaking out and my views, I was asked to resign from the board of directors. People took my videos and they sent it out to our MPs and MPPs, the local radio stations, all the real estate associations across Ontario, Canadian Real Estate Association, the Ontario Real Estate Association, and RECO, who is our governing body, asking for my real estate registration to be revoked because my point of view was opposite to the narrative. Thankfully, Rico has, I guess, found in my favor, so my license is not being revoked. I do still have the ability to talk. So I heard somebody earlier today saying, stand in your truth. I think it was Darryl. If we stand in our truth and we fight for what's right, you will win. That's exactly what I did, and I've won. So I get to keep my job. So because of that, I am very well versed in the law, what our rights are. It has become, I guess, a second job for me, or maybe my first job, actually. So I'm going to read this legal disclaimer. Neither this presentation nor any content provided by us is intended to provide legal advice. This information is intended to be used and must be used for information and educational purposes only, as general guidance and aimed at expanding your thinking. We are not lawyers, legal professionals, licenses of the Law Society of Ontario, or legal advisors, and this should not be considered legal advice. It is very important to do your own analysis before asserting your rights. You should consider your own personal circumstances and speak with legal professionals and independently research any information that you wish to rely upon, whether for the purpose of asserting your legal rights or otherwise. No content disseminated through written or oral communications, nor through presentations in person or through video conference, should be understood as constituting or as meant to construe legal advice. No fault or liability may be attributed to us for the use of said information to assert your rights. Please do so at your own risk. And if you need a lawyer, please get a lawyer. What is in these information packages is laws that do pertain to your rights. We've done our best to go through and highlight the sections that are pertinent to what is happening today. So I'm going to go through the pamphlet, so if you've got it, feel free to follow along so that what I'm saying makes sense. Take the pamphlets or handouts home with you. If we've run out of handouts, then feel free, my business card is there, feel free to send me an email or a text and we can email it to you after the fact. Okay? It looks like they're all gone, folks.
They're all gone.
Wow. We had more people come out than we intended.
One thing I want to say is that Rebel News is key lawyers for
So the gentleman to my right here was just saying Rebel News is offering free lawyers if you happen to get a fine. That is on the first page of the handouts. So it is there for you. The very first page is resources. Chris Weisdorf, he is offering a seminar. It's $97. I believe it's a 3-hour seminar. So his information is there if you want to take part in his seminar. He's also can put you in contact if you need legal advice. Omar, I'm going to say this wrong and I apologize. Omar Haradai, the Durham Community Legal Clinic. They are part of the We Are All Essential team, and he has put out that his Durham Community Legal Clinic is more than willing to represent people who also get fines or summons for a nominal fee, possibly free, depending on how complex your situation is. We also have on the front of the resource page, we've got helpful websites. There's Stand for Thee, Police on Guard, Take Action Canada, Action for Canada, the JCCF, Vaccine Choice Canada, and Rebel News. All of these organizations are fully engulfed in the fight of freedom. They've got all kinds of wonderful information. They've got a lot of the laws that we're going to deal with today. They've got notice of liabilities, and they will also help and refer you to lawyers if you need them. So don't be afraid to contact them or look up their websites. There's all kinds of great information there to add to what's here. So the next page of the handouts, we've got the Canadian Charter of Rights and Freedoms. It's really tiny print. It's hard to read, but if you go onto the Canadian website, or Canada's website, it is there. You can blow it up. You can also order much bigger copies of it, but we put it there so that you know that this is where a lot of our information has come from. Now, the Canadian Charter of Rights and Freedoms is something that a lot of people are fighting their tickets on, but there's a loophole in the Canadian Charter of Rights and Freedoms, and that's Section 1, that says that the government in a state of emergency can usurp some of your rights and freedoms. So a lot of these tickets that are being fought in the courthouse are not necessarily winning if you're fighting based on the Charter of Rights and Freedoms because of Section 1. Although Section 1 does say that it can be usurped in instances of emergency, but the Emergency Measures Act actually says that it can only be instated if there's evidence and resources presented before it is called into play. The day it was called into play, there was only one death in all of Canada. There were no resources presented and no evidence presented. Therefore, the Emergency Measures Act never should have been called into play because they did not follow the act. They did not follow the law. It was actually broken and unlawful to bring it into play. And to this date, they still have not given us the resources for calling in the Emergency Measures Act, and they have not provided the evidence that has been asked time and time again. There are several cases right now in the courts, and they're asking for that evidence and the resources. Out in BC, Bonnie Henry actually filed asking the courts to not look at that in the case that's against her there because she doesn't have the time to get the evidence and resources together. But that information was supposed to be already presented the day they called in the Emergency Measures Act, which tells you they most likely don't have evidence and they don't have the resources, which means all of these lockdowns and restrictions were illegal. The next page is the Canadian Bill of Rights. This is what you want to fight all of your tickets and your summons on. This is supreme law here in Canada. There are no loopholes to get out of it. Every law that is enacted in Canada must adhere to the Canadian Bill of Rights. Okay? So this is what you want to fight and stand on your square with. Not the Charter, but the Canadian Bill of Rights. So the next page we have, and you'll see that we've highlighted, it's the Human Rights Code. This is a big one right now because of the vaccines and the masks. The Human Rights Code talks about discrimination and segregation. What it is based on is the inherent dignity and the equal inalienable rights of all members of the human family is the foundation of freedom, justice, and peace in the world, and is in accord with the Universal Declaration of Human Rights as proclaimed by the United Nations. Now, you'll notice a lot of Canada's laws are based on globalist laws, the United Nations. The PPC wants to pull out of the United Nations because they're the ones that are making the laws for Canadians. It's just another reason to vote for the PPC. They believe that Canadians have the right to their own sovereignty and should not be dictated to by the United Nations. So the Human Rights Code. If somebody decides not to let you shop in their store, you can civilly take action against them based on the Human Rights Code because it is discrimination. So if somebody won't let you in, videotape it, get them on tape saying that they're not going to serve you because of your mask exemption, which is allowed under the Reopening Act, by the way. If they don't let you come in because they say it's policy, you're not allowed to policy outside of the law. That is very clear. Nobody can policy outside of the law. And in order for something to be law in Ontario, it has to go through 3 levels of legislature. It has to pass all 3 levels. And then it has to go to the Senate. And the Senate has to stamp it as approved. Then it's a law. Okay? So policies are not laws, and you cannot policy outside of the law. It's very, very clear. So if someone decides not to let you in, this is what you fight them on, okay? And you will win.
How much can you win? How much money can you win from them?
Now, it's different amounts based on the situation, but I've heard like $10,000. I've heard upwards of more than that.
That's a way to make money.
It's a great way to make money and ensure that that business never discriminates again when you hit them in their pockets. I believe it.
And I am medically exempted, and they could be at destroyed set up over outside.
Which they're not allowed to do. So, I'm going to read freedom from discrimination is part 1 of the Human Rights Code. And it says, every person has a right to equal treatment with respect to services, goods and facilities without discrimination because of race, ancestry, place of origin, color, ethnic origin, citizenship, creed, sex, sexual orientation, gender identity, gender expression, age, marital status, family status, or disability. Creed is your ideology. So if you believe that you need to breathe in order for your body to work properly, because that's kind of biology, that's your creed. You don't have to wear a mask. You are mask exempt. You do not need a doctor's note to say you are mask exempt. And disability. The moment you put that suffocation cover on your face, you are now disabling your body from being able to properly work. Okay? Your body needs oxygen in order to run your organs and your blood to flow properly to your brain. This is why we are seeing so many people fainting, having dizzy spells, headaches, migraines, all of that, because their body is not getting the proper oxygen in their blood to operate the organs in their brain properly. So that is a disability. The mask is a disability. So, accommodation. Every person has a right to equal treatment. Again, with respect to the occupancy of accommodation without discrimination. Again, it lists creed and disability. So many people right now, I'm in real estate, and I am hearing from so many people that if they're not vaccinated or if they're not wearing a mask, they're not getting rental accommodations. That again is against the law. You have the right to take civil action against those landlords that are impeding your ability to have accommodation.
So make sure you sue them so that you can make lots of money from them. Make that your full-time job, to sue them.
That's right. Listen to him. Harassment in accommodation. Every person who occupies accommodation has a right to freedom from harassment by the landlord or agent of the landlord or by an occupant of the same building. Again, creed and disability are in there. Now back in, I believe it was February or March, there was an elderly couple who owned a condo in Toronto, I believe it was. And they were told that they were no longer allowed to leave their condo unit to take care of another neighbor in another unit on another floor unless they put a mask on. They refused, they fought, they took it to court. We actually have a law on the books that forcing a condo unit owner to wear a mask in the common elements is illegal. It is on the books. It's one case that actually went through this year. So if you own a condo and they're trying to tell you you cannot be in the public spaces without a mask on, they are incorrect, and we've got law on the books. That one you will definitely win if you sue, if you take civil action against them. That is on the books as of this year. It was held up in the courts.
Can you do that with the apartment?
I can't remember, but I did post it on my Facebook. The lawyer that was involved in that case was Antoine Daly. So he was the lawyer that took care of that case.
What about apartment renters? Can they do the same thing?
Same with apartment renters. Again, discrimination. You cannot discriminate based on mask or no mask at all. It is against the law. We've got the law on the books as of this year. So you will win if somebody is trying to discriminate against you in your apartment building or in your condo. It is against the law. Contracts. Every person having legal capacity has a right to contract on equal terms without discrimination. Again, creed and disability are right there. So if someone doesn't want to enter into a contract with you because of that, again, you've got legal recourse. Okay? Employment. Every person has a right to equal treatment with respect to employment without discrimination. Again, creed and disability are there. Your employers have no right to discriminate against you or segregate you because of your creed or your disability. It is right in the Human Rights Code. Again, take civil action against your employer if they are discriminating against you. It is in the law. This law has been held up by the Supreme Court of Canada. You cannot policy outside of the law. So important to understand. Nobody can say it's our policy. Doesn't matter. The law supersedes those policies. Next page. Harassment in employment. Again, every person who is an employee has a right to freedom from harassment in the workplace by the employer or agent of the employer or another employee. Again, creed and disability are right there. So if you've got your co-workers that are harassing you, picking on you, leaving stuff on your car, leaving nasty messages, whatever, that is harassment. It's in the Human Rights Code. You can take civil action against them. Okay? It's right there. And announced intention to discriminate. A right under Part 1 is infringed by a person who publishes or displays before the public or causes the publication or display before the public of any notice, sign, symbol, emblem, or other similar representation that indicates the intention of the person to infringe a right under Part 1 of that, or that is intended by the person to incite the infringement of a right under Part 1. So again, all those signs that are on the stores that say you cannot come in unless you wear a mask are against the law. And if you go to your public health unit, they actually have, you gotta look for them, but they actually have signs that say mask exemptions are applicable. A lot of stores are not printing off those signs because it's sign number 20 out of the 40 signs that you have to pick from to put up. And they usually only have one sign that says mask exemptions are allowed. So any sign that says you cannot enter here because you don't have a mask on is against the law, the Human Rights Code. Okay? So please, if you're a business owner and you've got those signs up, get them down because you could be sued for having those signs up. It is against the law.
Let's make sure we sue all of them. Let's make sure we sue them all.
The man of the hour, Chris Weisdorf, is here. So Chris is part of the We Are All Essential, and he's also part of Adamson's BBQ legal team. So I'm going to let him talk to you guys for a few minutes.
So thank you for having me. I think she's summarized my involvement with the Adamson BBQ Legal Challenge. Adam Skelly was the first person in North America to be arrested for violating a public health order. The very first person. And he stood up for everyone's rights. They came down on him like 10 tons of bricks. He was literally one of 3 businesses that had the balls to open. The other 2 businesses closed quickly. And then they came down on him with 6 separate legal proceedings. We have fought this. We have gotten our experts. We have 6 experts on this challenge. We will be heard. I can't give you a date yet. We expect by the end of September, we'll see. But we will be heard. In terms of what's going on today, this is all an escalation. It's been a constant escalation since last July or even before then, right from the beginning, if you want to argue that. The entire point of this exercise is power and control over all of us. It's to disempower all of us and make us feel like we can do nothing, that there's nothing we can do about this. It is done It is literally what is being waged right now by the government against its own people. And every government, every level of government is a campaign of terror. It is a campaign of mind terrorism.
They are criminals.
I heard someone say they're criminals. Well, government exists, it did not come into existence in a vacuum. Throughout history, the last several hundred years, organized government, representational government didn't just come about out of a vacuum. It came about to protect life, liberty, and property.
Yes.
And this government, these governments, all of them, have destroyed life, liberty, and property, and they've ceded their legitimacy to govern, in my opinion. How is it that we have all these political parties, and yet this is the only one which is offering a choice to an actual alternative, a choice to the complete insanity we've been living under for the past 17, nearly 18 months now? How is that possible? We have a Coca-Cola and Pepsi democracy. This would not be accepted in any other industry, in any industry other than the corrupt political industry. In terms of what's going on now with forced vaccination, as I said, it's been an escalation from the beginning. First, lockdowns, just 2 weeks. We promised just 2 weeks. Then, of course, they pay us to stay home with our own borrowed money and printed money, which is the price tag will be high. The actual cost of free money is the most expensive cost there is. I don't want to really get into that right now, but I think we're going to have to deal with that as a society, collectively, unfortunately. A lot of other people have chosen misery going forward. We don't have to make that choice. We have a choice to follow our own way. In terms of where we are headed right now, remember it was the lockdowns, 2 more weeks. When people accepted that, it was a precedent. It was a legislative precedent. It ended up being a judicial precedent, something that we're hoping to reverse. But the lockdown and then the complete silencing of reasonable alternatives to emergency measures like hydroxychloroquine, zinc, ivermectin, focus protection, and simple vitamin D supplementation, any one of which would make emergency orders impossible to invoke. That means not one lockdown, no masks, no social distancing, no capacity restrictions, no trillions of dollars spent, no expensive medical treatments, no vaccines, and no vaccine passport, which is the real COVID, which stands for Certificate of Vaccination ID. So this is something that would not be possible if a court recognized that there were one or more reasonable alternatives to these emergency measures. But since we're there, lockdowns were the original lie, plus the lack of reasonable alternatives. Then masks, then select forced testing, then it became normalized in some industries. Now we're at the point where they want to force an experimental medical treatment upon us without our consent. So in terms of what your rights are, and I'll go over this briefly with you, you have a lot of rights. We have more rights in Ontario, maybe more than anywhere else on the face of the earth, but we don't use them. And if you don't use them, you lose them. One right that we have, fundamental in the British common law system, which we lived under since Canada became a country in 1867, is consent. Consent is the key. That is the key to a contract, it is the key to medical treatment, it is the key to our entire society, consent. Now, in terms of medical treatment, they refer to as informed consent. But it is consent. Don't let people, right now, there's the attempt to try to reverse the onus. You haven't heard this yet, but this is exactly what's happening. They're trying to reverse the onus and put it on you to justify to them that you are exempt. That's not how the law works. The law works where they, that is the onus is on them, the employer, the business, whoever, to seek your consent. And if they don't receive it, they may not obtain medical information from you, and they certainly may not dispense a medical treatment of any kind. Even if it's a single chiropractic treatment, they need your written consent for a single chiropractic treatment, let alone a completely experimental medical treatment. They do not have the right. Don't let them reverse the onus on you. It's on them. It is not on you. Don't play their game. Don't sign anything. Don't agree to anything. Don't accept anything. And don't you dare ask for an exemption. It is on them, not on you. In terms of our actual legal rights, well, what do we have in Ontario? In Ontario alone, we have the Healthcare Consent Act. Informed consent is in the Healthcare Consent Act. That's Ontario's version of the Nuremberg Code. So no one can say Ontario didn't agree to it. It's right there in the law. There are 33 separate instances of the age of consent, which is 16 years of age. When they give it to children that is under the age of 16, that is illegal under the Healthcare Consent Act. What else do we have? We have the Freedom of Information and Protection of Privacy Act, where uses of collection of information, including personal health information, must be authorized. It doesn't say consent, but it's very close to it. We have the Personal Health Information Protection Act. 2 separate privacy laws. This is another one. It carries very heavy fines. There they do require your consent, and it defines personal health information as a donation of a bodily substance. They must have your consent to collect a bodily substance from you, which includes shoving something deep in your sinuses and saying that they want to analyze it. They cannot do that without your consent. What else do we have? We have the Human Rights Code. Way too much emphasis is being placed on that. They're trying to shift all of this into the human rights realm, which is outside of the courts. They want to keep everything outside of the courts because the human rights tribunals are greatly backlogged. Don't play their game. Also, we have various Supreme Court precedents. One in 1980 talking about informed consent. Another one from 1945 talking about consent to medical treatments. Another one about 1999 talking about consent in terms of, it was a sexual assault case, talking about the common law, which goes back to 1770. It's 100 years before Canada existed. This cannot be gotten rid of because of a virus of any kind, even if this is the Ebola virus. They could not get rid of our law. And on top of that, the Court of Appeal weighed in on informed consent in terms of injection of powerful drugs, which have serious consequences, long-term and short-term. This is in 1991. And on top of that, we have all sorts of precedents regarding civil fraud, negligence, and gross negligence. And then we have the criminal code. So even if the province wanted to change the law, they'd have to change 7 statutes to make the certificate of vaccination ID legal. 7 statutes. I'm not saying it's impossible. There's a majority government in power in the province. But they haven't tried. Everything thus far is being very weak and very desperate. Realize this is being done out of weakness, not strength. Don't give them your peace of mind. Once they get here, it's over. Don't be upset. Don't be angry. Refuse to consent. The 4 most important words in the English language today are, I do not consent. In terms of the criminal code, that's federal. I think everyone knows that there is not going to be a majority government in power in the federal government, which is good. It's very, very good, because whatever government we have in power, Tweedledee or Tweedledum, whether it's Trudy or Tool, we know what the result's going to be. That they would invoke the Emergencies Act, they would try to get troops in the streets, all of that would happen, but they can't do it. Because if one person shows up, in terms of the Emergencies Act, which was enacted in 1988, they need no debate. If one person shows up, and one person did show up on March 23rd, 2020, Scott Reid, MP for Kingston, Frontenac, I believe, he refused to. He said, "There's going to be debate." And because of that, there was no Emergencies Act invoked at the federal level. One guy made the difference. One man. You can make the difference. There's a whole lot of us. There's not many of them. We can make the difference because the majority does not determine what the rule of law is. It's a minority of people who are absolutely committed to democracy and the rule of law, and our freedom is decided by us, no one else. He's saying 3%. It literally is. If Nassim Taleb wrote a book called Skin in the Game 2018, one of the chapters is called the Dictatorship of the Minority. It's not a long read in terms of that. If you want to look at that chapter up, you can find it online. You only need 3 to 4% of people who will absolutely not bend before the rest of society must accommodate them in their demands. And that's why, unfortunately, that's why we are where we are today, because a resolute small minority of people did the opposite, and they destroyed our democracy. It's time to take it back.
Amen. Yeah.
I'll say one last thing, which is about the criminal code, because I just talked with the federal government. We have plenty of protections in terms of the criminal code. The criminal code has no statute of limitations. So 5 years down the road, even 10 years down the road, people suffer injury from an experimental medical treatment, they're criminally liable. Not just in the province, which is quasi-criminal, not administratively via human rights tribunal, not civilly via lawsuits, criminally liable, where they can go to jail, and they will go to jail. We have organizational liability, so this goes for corporations, businesses, anything that's an organization is liable. That's very clear in the criminal code. If you go and look at the actual criminal violations, there's a whole laundry list, any one of which, if it's applied here, will lead to jail time. One is criminal negligence. Another one is assault without consent, torture, which sounds severe, but if you look at the definition, it fits the definition. Unlawful bodily harm, fraud, and intimidation. All of those, any one of which can lead to imprisonment, all of those can potentially apply here to anyone who wishes to force a medical treatment onto you. So realize that the evidence and the law are stacked in our favor. We must assert our rights, and I say this often. I say we do not consent, we will not comply, we will not obey, we will never give in.
Thank you, Chris. So that was Chris Weisdorf. He is on the front page of the resource panel. So if you're looking for information, he's a good guy to talk to, as you can see. So back into our pamphlet. I hope you all didn't lose your space because these are not numbered. So I can't say, go to page whatever. This is where we left off. But we did leave off at the Canadian Charter of Rights and Freedoms, which refers to mobility of citizens. Every citizen of Canada has the right to enter, remain in, and leave Canada. So everybody who's trying to travel across Canada into the different provinces and they're being told you can't come in, that again is against the law. It's against our Charter of Rights and Freedoms, okay? Even our passport says you are allowed as a Canadian citizen to travel in and out of Canada. Nobody has the right to stop you from doing so, okay? Again, against the law. It's a human rights code. It's against the law. No one has the right to stop you from getting an education based on creed or disability. It's against the law. I think we might cover that a little later, so, yeah. Life, liberty, and security of person is section number 7. You probably hear a lot of people talk about section 7 of the Charter of Rights and Freedoms. That says everyone has the right to life, liberty, and security of person, and the right not to be deprived thereof, and except in accordance with the principle of fundamental justice. So again, you have the right to shop, you have the right to travel, you have the right to earn a living. Nobody has the right to say no to you based on your medical health or based on a mask, okay? It's against the law. And number 9, detention or imprisonment. Section 9, everyone has the right not to be arbitrarily detained or imprisoned. So all of these quarantine hotels that the government is insisting people go to, you don't have to go to it. Just say no. I don't know if any of you follow Chris Guy, but he's been saying, just say no. You as a Canadian citizen or a permanent resident has the right to say no. And because of the Charter, they cannot force you into a quarantine hotel. They can give you a ticket, but you can fight those tickets in a court of law based on life, liberty, travel, and the right not to be imprisoned. We also have the Quarantine Act that also deals with that, with what they're doing at the airports. Section 14.1 of the Quarantine Act states, any qualified person authorized by the minister may, to determine whether a traveler has a communicable disease or symptoms of one, use any screening technology authorized by the minister that does not involve the entry into the traveler's body of any instrument or other foreign body. That means all those PCR tests are illegal for them to perform on you at the airports. You do not have to take the PCR test. Section 14, number 2. If a traveler refuses to be screened with the screening technology and the person using it is not a screening officer or quarantine officer, the person shall immediately inform a screening officer or quarantine officer of the refusal. Just say no. That is informing them you are not going to allow them to stick a foreign substance into your body, because under the Quarantine Act, they don't have the right to do so unless you consent. So it goes back to what Chris was saying. I do not consent. 4 words, you need to learn how to use them and stand up in your power and in your square and use them. And a quarantine officer shall not detain a traveler if the quarantine officer has reasonable grounds to believe that the traveler does not pose a risk of significant harm or public health. Therefore, you can refuse. I do not consent, and they cannot stop you from leaving the airport. It is in the Quarantine Act. And that is section 32 of the Quarantine Act. So section 14 and section 32 are what you need to know if you're traveling at the airport. Very, very important to know your rights. Now the Canadian Bill of Rights is our next one that we're going to go on to. And this, I think, is mist-highlighted in all of your pamphlets, so I apologize for that. I'm sorry? So it's the Quarantine Act, Section 14, and Section 32. You're welcome. So the Canadian Bill of Rights, that is the one that you want to fight for because there's no loopholes. It is the Supreme Act. There is no loophole saying that the government can call in the Emergencies Act and this one disappears. This supersedes an Emergency Act. All laws and statutes must adhere to the Canadian Bill of Rights. And if it does not adhere to the Canadian Bill of Rights, it does not get passed. Okay? So the Canadian nation is founded upon principles that acknowledge the supremacy of God, the dignity and worth of the human person, and the position of family and society of free men and free institutions. Men and institutions remain free only when freedom is founded upon respect for moral and spiritual values and the rule of law. Enshrining these principles and the human rights and fundamental freedoms derived from them in a Bill of Rights, which shall reflect the respect of Parliament for its constitutional authority, and which shall ensure the protection of these rights and freedoms in Canada. Again, ensure the protection of these rights and freedoms in Canada. The Bill of Rights, section number 1. It is hereby recognized and declared that in Canada there have existed and shall continue to exist without discrimination by reason of race, national origin, color, religion, or sex the following human rights and fundamental freedoms, namely, the right of the individual to life, liberty, security of the person, and enjoyment of property, and the right not to be deprived thereof, except by due process of law. Again, every law and statute that is passed must adhere to the Canadian Bill of Rights, which guarantees your right to life, liberty, security of person, and enjoyment of property. Therefore, you cannot be told you need to wear a mask. You cannot be told you need to have a vaccine in order to work, because that is discrimination and goes against the Canadian Bill of Rights. Stand in your square. I do not consent. Construction of law. Every law of Canada shall, unless it is expressly declared by an act of the Parliament of Canada, that it shall operate, notwithstanding the Canadian Bill of Rights, but so construed and applied as to not to abrogate, abridge, or infringe, or to authorize the abrogation, abridgment, or infringement of any of the rights or freedoms herein recognized, declared, and in particular, no law of Canada shall be construed or applied so as to 1. or A. authorize or effect the arbitrary detention, imprisonment, or exile of any person. Did you hear that? No quarantining of Canadian citizens for following the law. 2. or B. impose or authorize the imposition of cruel and unusual treatment or punishment. Do you think imposing a mask mandate is cruel or unusual punishment? Yes! Thank you. Canadian Bill of Rights, folks. C. deprive a person who has been arrested or detained of the right to be informed promptly of the reason for his arrest or detention. So, earlier in the year when the police and bylaws were pulling people over and detaining them, and they weren't telling them why, and they were asking for your identification, that was against the law. You are not allowed to detain a person for any reason unless they are in the middle of breaking the Highway Traffic Act or a criminal code offense. And they must tell you so. Not wearing a mask or hanging out with your friends is not a criminal offense. As per the Canadian Bill of Rights, you have the right to do that. So anybody that detains you is now breaking the law. Okay? Very important. And when police do this, they are breaking the law, and their first section of the Police Services Act states that they must adhere to all laws, and their number one code is to protect the Canadian Bill of Rights and your right to freedoms and security. So every time they pull you over for not wearing a mask or hanging out with too many people, they are breaking the law. And when they break the law, their liability insurance no longer covers them because they are in violation of the Canadian Bill of Rights, which means you now have a civil suit against them. Okay? If you are being detained, you have the right to retain and instruct counsel without delay. I heard many people were being arrested, held in jail cells for 10 hours, 12 hours, overnight, without being able to call their lawyer. Again, that is against the law. It's in the Canadian Bill of Rights. You cannot do that. Again, you have the right to civilly sue those officers and those police departments that did that, if that was your case. And of the remedy by way of habeas corpus for the determination of the validity of his detention and for his release if the detention is not lawful. So if they have arrested you, did not tell you why you were arrested, and it wasn't because of a criminal code offense, they had no right to arrest you. And if they didn't have a warrant, again, they had no right to arrest you. And you do not have to talk to the police unless you are in the middle of a criminal code offense and you are being arrested and there's a warrant for your arrest. Other than that, you have the right to remain silent at all times and answer no questions. Absolutely no questions. And in the back of your resource pamphlet, I have included, I think it's a 6-step thing of how to deal with bylaw officers or police should they attempt to arrest you, talk to you, detain you, or ask you for your name, identify you. It is in, I believe, the back of the pamphlet, what you say, because you have the right not to incriminate yourself, and you have the right not to talk to them without your lawyer present. You have the right to walk away. I do not consent. Okay? Yes?
Does that include any bylaw coming to your home if you're having a family gathering?
Correct. So if a bylaw comes to your your home, you're having a family gathering, you have, a wonderful Karen neighbor who calls the bylaw and says, hey, they're breaking the law, they've got 10 cars in their driveway and they're only supposed to have 5.